Hi, Valentina.
Hi, Kevin.
Hey, thanks for joining us. So this is the second session that we've had from our Tech Role Models series for the Women in Tech Mentoring Program. I'm learning as we go, and something that has occurred to me since the last session is, I guess, the variety of people that we have tuning in live and watching the videos afterwards. So there's a few different angles that I'd like to explore. There's how you actually developed into the level you're at now. But actually, I think equally important for some of our more junior members of the program is just an understanding of what your job actually is. I think there's lots of roles in technology, and we don't all have visibility of the wonderful different aspects of those jobs. So if you could start just by giving us an overview of current situation, current company, what the company does, what you do on a day-to-day basis, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, I'm working for Quartz Enterprise, which is a consultancy organization based in London. My role is Director of IT Architecture. So what I do is pretty much review the overall business requirement and trying to translate those into technical achievement, technical delivery. So my team is managing the end-to-end IT design remit. So we are looking at cloud implementation, data center implementation, but also corporate tooling like email, redesign, and so on. So at the moment, the role is more strategic, it's more setting the pace for the technology that is yet to come, but also fix the problems that we have today. In the past, I've been involved in a variety of different roles, covering both design and operation across the infrastructure. So this role is more focused on the strategy, also the short and the long-term strategy for the organization and for the clients that we are supporting.
Okay, and we'll get into your background in a minute, but a spoiler for people, Valentina is quite technical. How much of that technical experience is important in the role you're in now? Do you use that technical expertise on a day-to-day basis?
It represents the foundation of my job, to be honest. I need to be able to build a trustful relationship and respect with all the engineers working with me, but also outside my team and my organization. I need to build a technical credibility, in other words, to kind of be trusted. So it's absolutely needed. Need to come from a technical background to be able to understand the pro and cons of any initiative. At the same time, we also need to be in a position to translate those in a language which is not a technical language for the executives, so that we can really link in between technology jargons and business requirements and business needs. So definitely is a must to have a technical background to be able to actually to shape the deliverables for and the strategy for the organization. So needs to pretty much understand end-to-end when it comes to infrastructure.
Yeah. Okay, and this is a question that we had in advance of the session from our members or audience. It's just around, what do you find to be the most challenging aspect of your current role?
Sometimes it could be the politics which is attached to it. More senior we became, more we are involved with conversation, which are not always strictly technical, but there is a lot of politics of managing the expectation across the organization. Sometimes you can find, in general, I'm not referring to specific jobs, people with some kind of side of agenda. So we always need to be able to negotiate the pro and cons and make sure that, again, we build that credibility. So that's, I think, is probably the most difficult aspect, to make sure that we navigate the politics well, at the same time that we engage properly with the executive team to make them understand the value of the project that we are trying to push on. So definitely is the combination of non-technical skills and soft skills with the technical skills, which is one of the aspects, the complicated aspects of my role.
Yeah, okay, and we can get into how you develop those skills to be successful later on. So yeah, I think what would be useful now is just to understand, how you got into tech, why you got into tech. So, growing up in Italy, was it always the dream to be a director of architecture?
Absolutely not. I was planning to be someone else. At the time, I was studying biology with the intention to move and study vet. But I find myself a completely different path. I think sometimes it's just coincidence, or sometimes it's just by chance. When I was studying at university, I wanted also to explore Europe a little bit more. So I was still 21 years old. I decided to move to UK for the first time. And finding jobs and surviving, learning the language, and being on my own for the first time, it was very empowering and very scary at the same time. And I remember when I moved back to Italy after a year, just over a year, I just needed to find a job, to be honest. And it was the first, let's say, years of the booming of IT and internet. So there was plenty of organization and companies looking for people just to learn how to do the job on the job. So I found myself a job in a contact center, which was the equivalent of the British Telecom. And then I found my way up, studying on my own. So pretty much I'm self-learning and trying to always challenge myself to understand more about technology. I got fascinated with the Linux and everything Linux related. So I started studying and I found myself moving in the organization as a Linux engineer. And that is pretty much where everything started. There is a lot of studying on my own, falling asleep with a book next to me. And I think it was very empowering. At the time, we could do whatever we wanted. There's so many opportunities for people with no technical background. I did some IT, computer science at school, but it was a completely different world compared to what you can get today at the university. I mean, I remember that school was just 2 computers for a class. And it was the big, large computer with the big floppies, and everything was Pascal based. There was no Windows, there was no Linux. And that was the way I started, like many others. And I think it is the point I just challenged myself. I like it. And I kept going and studying and proving myself I could do the job. And I think in the first few years have been great. It was so much to study, to learn, to understand, and everyone was new to the job, and everyone was willing to learn and to help each other. So I think it was a great time when I started. But I'm talking about 24, 25 years ago.
Yeah, so things are slightly different now, but there's probably more of a competitive marketplace, but there is definitely a desire from all organizations to hire more women into tech. So I think the opportunity still exists for people trying to break into the sector, definitely. So that was a job in Italy. What brought you to the UK, and did you find any specific challenges being a foreign national trying to develop a career in this country?
So I moved back in UK about 10 years ago. It was pretty much during the previous economic crash, and all the companies were kind of closing down in Italy as well. So I decided to give myself a try and move back to UK and see if I could find anything. And I think it was difficult because the UK was still recovering from the previous crash, and there were yes jobs, but there was a lot of people applying for the same jobs because the market was still recovering, in other words. And so the salary as well were very low, and it was very, very competitive. And at the same time, I kind of realized that the UK companies, and in general, the managers during the interview, they were not so keen on having someone coming from another country, because maybe we were not used to the way of working of London, of UK in general. So it was very difficult to kind of get the trust. In the end, I managed to find a job, and then obviously to improve myself further. And I had to change jobs sometimes because I wanted to improve myself, and I couldn't find an opportunity within the organization I was at the time, and I tried to keep moving when it was necessary to improve myself. I think the variety is one of the main factors for success in general, because even from a technical perspective, the technologies never apply in the same way. The needs of the organization is always different, so that means there is so much to learn from the same tool implemented in a different way for different reason or for a different purpose. Always give you a different angle, that is priceless, in other words. So I just find myself reinventing, in other words, myself every time I decided to move to something slightly different, to see a different aspect of IT. And I think I met great people, and some experienced me longer than others, and it's where I am today.
Yeah, you talk about reinventing yourself there. So did you find that there was constant momentum in your career, or were there points where you felt like things were stalling and you had to do different things to try and motivate yourself and break those challenges?
I think sometimes jobs are a little bit of a life cycle, okay, and then we are off because the market in UK and London is very dynamic. Sometimes we are hired, even if for a permanent role, but to kind of deliver something. So deliver a project, which could be a 2-3 years project with a transformation in the cloud or something else. But there is usually a point where that cycle ends. And then it is when you can find yourself kind of repeating the same things and stalling. And that really depends on the organization, if there is enough variety in terms of project and work, and is sufficiently dynamic, or you find yourself kind of really recycling the same. I found myself a couple of times where I needed kind of change organization because the organization couldn't offer anything more than what it was delivering in the 2-3 years of program. And I think it depends on each of us how long we want to stay in an organization which is not offering any more to us any learning any learning path. How long we wanted to stay. I think that is very subjective. I tended to get bored quite easily, so I need the variety around me, whatever it is with people, projects, a combination of the two. I needed that type of dynamism to kind of push myself. But again, it really depends on, it's a subjective choice. But yeah, I don't particularly like to stall in an organization, just repeating exactly the same. At that point, and maybe I'll look for something else. It depends.
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned that you didn't come from a technical education background. You wanted to be a vet. You got a chance in tech, and you've gone down a relatively technical career path, and you're still using your infrastructure knowledge in your day-to-day, even as a director. But you've chosen to go down that management route. So was that a conscious decision, or was that just an organic evolution of the role that you were in?
I think I can say it was both, but I got a quite big push from some people I had the pleasure to work with. They actually challenged me and asked me if I would consider to be a technical manager at some point. And I remember at that time, it wasn't really something I was considering. So I kind of review my aspiration from a different angle. And at that point was two of the managers that I was working with. So I was quite happy to see something in me that I couldn't see. That I think that was great, and it kind of pushed me to think about can I be a manager, and I think is one of the reasons I kind of changed at that point organization, and I joined a smaller organization when we were looking for someone to become a manager, to take the lead of the entire infrastructure as a chief engineer, and I think it kind of made sense because I'm the type of person I wanted to influence the decision of the early stages. I don't want it to be someone just receiving a task to execute. I want to be part of the conversation of deciding which is the task, if it makes sense. I wanted to help deciding what is the best technology because being an engineer, it gave me a unique perspective to understand if the right choice from a technical perspective, if the right choice for the organization, for the product. So I think it was, in the end, I think it was the natural evolution for me, for someone with my personality. So I kind of tended to lead. Someone might tend to say I can tend to be a little bit bossy sometimes, but I think it was actually the natural evolution for me too. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make a difference at the early stages. And you need to be at the top level of the food chain to be able to do that.
Yeah. So we've got a question from the audience, which is asking, what do you think are the differences required in a person to move from that technical role into the managerial role? And I was asked a similar question around, you said that the people saw something in you that you hadn't seen initially. So what are those key attributes that you think, make you an ideal candidate and some of our members for moving into those leadership roles?
I used to take the lead, especially, can you hear me, Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to take the lead, especially every time that maybe the manager was not around, was on holiday, and so on. I was one of the few in the team back in the days to actually, take the lead and discuss difficult topics. And I don't like to go around the same problem too many times. I mean, there is a theory that says we should be spending 5% on the problem, 95% of the time on the solution and the resolution. And I kind of really believe in that sentence. So I'm the type of person, okay, we have a problem, just let's face it, and let's try to find a solution. So I was the one kind of asking the difficult questions, leading some of the technical decision. And that was then natural for me to, try to find I don't want to say the approval, but I like to work with teams where I can share my opinion and they can feel free to share their opinion, right? And we need to find a solution together. It doesn't mean I don't give them instruction or I share with them how do I want things to be done. But they have the freedom to come back with the ideas, and then it's a shared decision sometimes. So I like to work that way. I like to be able to lead when and where is possible. In terms of the skills, I believe a manager, it depends. Sometimes a manager is not a leader. I believe in a manager which are also leader. And it's very difficult to find trying to find that right combination of technical skills with soft skills. With the emotional intelligence, okay, that's very rare to find. Sometimes we're just too dry, sometimes we're just too strict. We're not sufficiently flexible. And when you are in management, there is a lot of, mitigation. Okay, we need to mitigate this difficult situation with the team. We need to mitigate the situation with the rest of the management or with the executive team. So there is a lot of negotiation that needs to happen. So the right combination of soft skills, or speaking the right way with people, but at the same time of trying to find consensus within the team about the technical direction. I think that is the most important part for a technical leader.
Yeah, lovely. And you mentioned that there was other people involved in your development in terms of people kind of pushing you to move into that managerial role because they saw those attributes in you. Did you have any, the concept of any sponsors, throughout your career that have helped that development, or is it more down to just your sheer hard work and determination to climb the ranks?
Yeah, I haven't had any sponsor in any organization. I have to say there have been managers where they helped me to improve my skills or see aspects of my personality to invest for the career. But in general, no, I've never been part of any networking model that it could have helped. And I think that's something, for example, that we should be investing more time to help other people to progress in their career in an easier way, because it can't always be a battle. And for a lot of women in IT, unfortunately, is a battle. So I think having networking, a kind of sponsorship, mentorship and coaching, I think it could be very useful for whoever is approaching IT today, so the younger generation, but also other people that found themselves in a situation where they don't know what direction they should be taking and might, take advantage of some help.
Yeah, and so that sounds like something, if you had the chance again, you'd probably go out of your way to seek sponsors or mentors to try and move the career forward faster than it even has already, which has been impressive. Is there anything else that you would do differently in retrospect?
I don't know. I mean, I think IT and life is always a work in progress. There is always something that we should learn and improve ourselves. definitely going back, I will change some of the things I've done. In general, I'm quite happy with the career I had. It's been painful at time, but I'm quite happy to have reached this level, and without sacrificing too much of me. So without turning myself into someone else. But definitely will have helped a lot to have some help. To kind of understand the problem, or when the direction needs to be changed quickly, having someone supporting you, I think will have been great. Sometimes we feel a little bit lonely because there are not many people we can talk with about the problems that we're experiencing.
Yeah, and I think you're very passionate about women empowering other women, and us all helping the next generation come through and make things a little bit easier for them. So what is that one or more piece of advice that you would give to somebody who's following a similar path to you but at an earlier stage?
Don't give up. If you cannot see a future in the organization where you are, start looking for something else elsewhere. There's always going to be an opportunity. We cannot wait forever for something good to happen to us. We need to take it. Trying to use as much as possible the mentoring program, because it can really help you. Having someone which already went through the same experience or similar experience, it's just sharing the experience between the two of us, or more even than two. I think it's great, because we don't feel like it's only happening to us. We don't feel like we are different from others. The situation tends to repeat itself and themselves. So speaking with people that already went through the journey, or they're still in the journey, I think it helps a lot to find a little bit of familiarity, I would say, in the event.
Yeah, and one question that we had from the audience before the event, which you might have shone some light on already, is what does success mean to you? So how throughout your career have you measured that you are being successful, and are you happy with what you've achieved, and or are there things that you've still got to tick off that list?
So it's not definitely about a title. It's about the level of, let's say, of fulfilling, how fulfilling you feel about what you're doing, how happy you are interacting with people about technology and technical decision. So that, I think, probably is the most important one. It's not really about the title. Sometimes we're never going to reach the title we want or we aspire, but it doesn't mean we are any less. It's just the situation sometimes doesn't allow us to be where we want. But I'm happy about when I'm talking about technology, and we're leaving a little bit the politics aside, and we can see, okay, what's the alternative, what's the best solution, how we're going to make it working, and always to step out and see at the bigger picture. And never forget to look at the bigger picture, because as a manager, that's one of the most important value that we have, to be able to connect events and projects to each other, and always to keep in mind of the long-term strategy. So no, I would have to say I'm quite happy where I am. It would be nice at some point maybe to become a CTO, but as long as I'm enjoying myself, it's not going to be a problem, whatever is the title.
Yeah. Okay. So still room for growth, which is good. There's still something there.
Always. There is always rooms for growth, and we shouldn't stop ourselves on looking for improvement.
Yeah, excellent. I can see that one of our audience members was typing in the chat. So I think I've reached a natural point for my question. So it'd be good to open out to the floor, really, to see if any of our guests want to take us off mute, ask a question directly, or put something in the chat. So one of the questions that we've had through already is, what do you see as difficulties in progressing that are specific to women?
So there are not many of us around. So in the for men, sometimes it's awkward to find themselves in a room with a woman speaking about technology. They are not used to it. Okay, I'm not saying everyone is in the same situation, but there are situations where they look at you and say, oh, she's an alien, what she's doing here. and that's, you know, it's quite funny. I mean, I quite enjoy that situation. I think it's because there are not many of us around. There is no really a lot of experience of working with a woman in technology or having a leader woman in technology. And I think both women and men are not prepared to that. Okay, I think there is a lot of kind of training / education and unconscious bias training, especially, that it should be ongoing all the time in the organization to allow to have a more open mind. I'm not referring only to women. I'm referring to the BAME people, Black women in IT, and not only. I'm talking about people coming from different countries. That means different education. That means different way of speaking. That can be perceived in a different or a wrong way. So I think we need to spend more time understanding each other, because a multicultural environment enrich us. In other words, it's so great to see things approached in a different way because we are coming from a different background. And I think I'm very passionate about having a multicultural environment, working with people from all over the world and understanding their point of view, which could be different, or understand their way of speak. I mean, Italian are quite straightforward, so sometimes we are perceived like maybe rude. But that's not the intention. We just got to the point directly, and we can be a little bit brutal, but we're not trying to be nasty. It's engaging with different people from different cultures, I think, is what we need across all the organization, and learning to see things from a different perspective and point of view. For women, I haven't come across many women at the executive level, unfortunately. Very few women doing similar job to mine. Very few women reaching at the top of the food chain, in other words. And I don't know, I think we need more women so that we can actually improve the way we are perceived in the organization. But we need to try to help each other, because otherwise no one is going to do for us. So I think it's sometimes it's just the way we are going to be perceived. Sometimes we're going to someone tell us we are too emotional, where this emotional intelligence is what allow us actually to get the best out of people, to actually engage in the right way with people. It's really a lot of gender stereotypes that we have around that we should be changing. We should be trying to change.
Yeah, and you mentioned the need for men specifically, but not uniquely, to get exposure to people from other backgrounds to enhance their awareness. Have you seen any techniques or routes to allow people in organisations where they lack diversity to actually get exposure to people from other backgrounds?
I've been in some unconscious bias training, which I found very, very interesting, because it's because it's unconscious. We don't really realize that sometimes we're just wrong the way we are perceiving people in front of us, whatever they are, short or tall, with a few kilos, or slim. We all have some level of unconscious bias because it's unconscious. We don't realize that. So I think it does is including myself. I'm making a mistake of judging people around me and needed to reprocess. So I think there are definitely techniques. There are a lot of companies that have been going through a very structured culture transformation. There are different techniques that can be used, and it's for each organization to actually try to invest the time and the money to do it. It's not going to be a short term, we just do a day training, everything is sorted. To change the way we approach other people, it's going to take a lot of time.
Yeah, my big one that I advise organizations to look at is reverse mentoring. That and work placements and apprenticeships. I think giving yourself exposure to, let's say, people that aren't currently in the business, I think is really important. I've always say you learn far more from talking to somebody affected by the things that you're not aware of than you do from researching them, you know, third hand. So yeah, my advice to anybody that's looking to get themselves or get their leadership team to be more aware of the things that affect women, BAME, neurodiverse, people from LGBT backgrounds, would absolutely be, you know, put yourself out there, you know, look at mentoring programs where you can be the mentor to those individuals, and you'll learn a load from that engagement. So yeah, unless there's any other questions from our audience in the next 10-15 seconds, then I'll just wrap up by saying, you know, thank you very much, Vali. It's a really good talk. It's really great to hear from women in tech that, you know, even though they've got into it by accident, they're not stuck in non-technical roles. You know, I think it's really good to have role models that have gone down that technical route and stand toe to toe with the men in those organisations when it comes to that front. So I think, sure, you know, you'll be inspirational to a lot of the members and the people that watch this video afterwards. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Have a great evening. Then hopefully we'll catch up soon.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone participating today.